Hey everyone, Daniel and Chris here with the Superhero Show. Now we've got a lot to get through today. We're going to go through our favourite superhero theme tunes and make some Comic Con predictions. But first, this week we got a lot of pictures from Batman v Superman in Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah, with Comic Con on the horizon, a lot of stuff gets dropped at the moment, doesn't it? Normally in EW, actually, which is sometimes I think it's a funny place to...
If you want to go with us, we are not adverse to that.
And we have a show called The Superhero Show, which ties in nicely.
It does. It couldn't be a tighter fit.
But yeah, a bunch of stills. First impression of those stills, Daniel.
Because we've only so far seen one picture of Wonder Woman, which was the one at Comic Con from last year. Yeah, it was last year, and the colours of it were quite muted. So it was quite nice to see her next to Batman and Superman and see her in action, but also to see her out of her outfit in kind of civilian clothing, in like a ball gown. With
a dress,
essentially, if you will. I don't know the terminology for ladies' clothing. It's got a smashing blouse on. Yeah. But it's interesting to see that because she's not just going to come. It's almost like she's got a secret identity, perhaps.
Yeah.
An alter ego, rather than just being constantly Wonder Woman and coming from a very, like Thor is always Thor in the Marvel universe. Seems like she might be. She's got another persona.
Most definitely.
And Affleck has something interesting to say about that specific picture. So I love the fact that there was this Thomas Crown Affair, Bondy, sexy scene that they wrote about two people who are pretending to be two different people who each know the secrets of the other person.
Does this suggest they're going to play chess in the movie? Thomas Crown banter there.
That's a whole hour in the movie.
Yeah, okay, so there's going to be sexy time between them two.
Yeah, a little bit of sexual tension.
Bit of flirtation.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And Affleck went on to talk a little bit more about what he's doing with the character. He said he's at the end of his run, which is something we kind of knew, and maybe the end of his life. There's this sort of world weariness to it. He's on the verge of being swallowed up by the anger and the rage that we see haunt this character in the other manifestations of it. But this guy is further down the line and has become more embittered and cynical.
So maybe even less jokes than we were expecting in the previous show.
Yeah, so it's less jokes and more chess. No, but I think I really like those quotes. I think that, he says, you've had a glimpse of the anger and the rage and other manifestations, but he's kind of name checking them, going, but we're still going to give you something new of this character.
Yep.
This character you're very familiar with on the big screen.
Yep. Sounds like he needs some anger management.
Yeah. There's one picture in particular that caught your attention.
Which one was that?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, well, no, I was just going to say, didn't Affleck also compare the character to Hamlet?
He did indeed.
Interesting.
So maybe a touch of madness to him.
The American Hamlet, to bleed or not to bleed? That's going to be the question.
How long have you been cooking that one up for?
I've got it written down.
I saw it earlier on.
Yeah, we also had a picture of Jesse Eisenberg with funny hair.
So
weird.
I love there's a big debate this week whether it's a wig or not a wig. It's a wig, isn't it? Or do you think
it's a wig? I think the question mark is it a wig in the film or not?
Yeah, I think it's got...
Or does he lose his hair in the film, as he did in, Smallville and various comic iterations?
That's a plot point.
Yeah, something happens to make him lose his hair. In Smallville, I believe, I seem to remember it was Superman coming down, and the accident that he has is what makes his hair fall out, which was really interesting that he'd... so what, you think that's insane?
I don't know, or maybe it's like an early look at him. I think his... costume is exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's kind of like young, trendy, .com kind of.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Nice cardigan. That's what you want from your villain. I think a cardigan. No, I think he. Yeah. I think
so you're going wig. I'm going real hair.
You're in the film. It's real hair.
Yeah.
That he then loses.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going wig.
Yeah.
We'll probably find out.
Why would he be wearing a wig? But then again, he wears a wig in Superman the movie.
That's what I'm thinking. Is it some kind of like little homage that will be quickly?
Because with Superman, it's because he's very vain, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's. I wonder if this. Do you think this one will be vain? This Lex Luthor?
Yeah, maybe not as vain as the man who's had multiple operations to make himself look like Superman.
Yeah, he looks weird.
Glad he's not in the movie.
That was a news story that broke this week.
Yeah.
Odd.
It's like weird digression, but also in the Entertainment Weekly stuff, this is quite an interesting story. Zack Snyder's talked about an Easter egg that he wanted to put into Man of Steel, which actually, just talking about it, laid the groundwork for doing Batman v Superman. On set, he pitched an idea to the kind of executive producers, Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, and he only meant it as Easter egg. He said, "What about at the end of the movie we do a scene where there's a crate full of kryptonite delivered to Wayne Manor?" says Snyder. Everyone was like, "Okay." Once you say it out loud, it's a problem because you can't unsay it.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
You either say, yeah, it's a good idea, let's do it, or no, that's a rubbish idea, let's not
It's
do
almost
that.
like everyone was too awkward to go, no, let's not do that.
That sounds like an afterthought with one of our most important characters. So does that mean that scene's going to be in this film?
It's just getting loads of kryptonite. Where would you get it delivered from? Amazon. Got everything. Got cereal on there now. It sounds like we're being really glib, but I actually like a lot of these pictures, and I like a lot of the quotes that are in Entertainment Weekly, and it's just nice to see a bit more about it. Like,
I'll say I'm disappointed that on the cover they're not all shouting like the Terminator covers they did recently, because I think every character should shout in a photo because it just brings it alive.
Yeah, and they should all be taken on what looks like the Top Gear set.
Yeah, there's just something about their covers with the white background that's very, I think, unexciting, and it just doesn't bring them to life. Like,
it's good if you want to Photoshop them though.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know. I found the pictures a little bit, I don't know, almost felt a bit dated, a bit 90s, a bit, I don't know. I'm just still waiting to have that thing that makes me excited about this project.
Yeah.
Over the last few months, all the little bits and pieces we've heard and seen, there's nothing that's made me go, oh, wow. Wow. In the way that maybe that teaser that was only shown to Comic-Con audiences a couple of years ago made everyone go, wow.
Maybe we'll get that next weekend at Comic-Con.
Yes.
At the DC panel, which we'll be talking about more in a minute. But what do you think of the new Superman v Batman pictures? Let us know, superhero@ign.com.
Now, we have had lots of feedback this week because we talked about Spider-Man last week and the casting of Tom Holland. Everyone has an opinion. So, unfortunately, we can't read everyone's out, but thank you for everyone who wrote in. A lot of positivity for Tom Holland's casting. But 3 people actually wrote in with the same theory, which I thought was really interesting. So I'll read them all out. Carl Hines wrote, after all the recent news about Spider-Man, I started thinking more about how he could be implemented into the story, and if Marvel could use Uncle Ben's death to give him motivation to join Iron Man's side in Civil War. Could it be possible that Marvel could have Uncle Ben killed off differently in order to fit him into the story, like Collateral Damage during the Battle of New York as an unlikely example? Equally, Daniel Megan said, the plot synopsis for Civil War mentions an incident involving collateral damage. What if Uncle Ben is killed in this incident? And Hugo Suarez from Portugal writes in and says pretty much the same thing. What if Uncle Ben is one of the casualties and that's why Spider-Man has to pick sides? What do you guys think?
I think it's fascinating.
It's a really good theory, and it would make us see Uncle Ben's death in a different way, which is what we've all been talking about.
Yeah,
we don't want to see that again.
I think it tallies with a lot of things that Kevin Feige's been saying this week. So he's done a lot of press recently for the upcoming release of Ant-Man. And he's talked about Ant-Man specifically, but also kind of gestured towards Black Panther and Doctor Strange, whereas originally the first set of Marvel movies, these were isolated heroes becoming heroes. Now they can no longer do that. Too much of this universe has been established. So he says the new heroes, they emerge into a world where all this like machinery and apparatus exists. So Ant-Man, through Hank Pym, is already connected to S.H.I.E.L.D. Doctor Strange, even though it'll be slightly aside, he said this week, he goes, Stephen Strange is a surgeon in New York. He's obviously going to feel the ramifications of a massive disaster like what happened in the first Avengers movie. So I think that will factor in. You know, Peter Parker is a citizen of New York. He would have felt that tragedy. I think that'd be a really clever way of bringing him in.
We'll find out where he was and what he was doing. Just one thing, Carl also says, do you think Stark Industries could be where Peter gets bitten by the spider? Potentially.
Who knows what they're getting up to in there?
I think there could be something to that. Anyway, you're next.
Reckless. Taylor has written in, he says, for a Spider-Man villain, I would love to see Kraven the Hunter and Mysterio be the main villains. I would also love a retake on Venom and introduce Carnage into the world. Venom could also play into Spidey's origins.
I'll add Robert Spake writes in and says, I'm really excited by the new Spider-Man, as he's my favourite character, and I've long had ideas for what I'd love to see on the big screen. For a villain, I definitely want Mysterio, as I think he's been a missed opportunity so far. With the increased use of CGI and special effects, having Mysterio would instantly lend the film to having spectacular visuals. I also think it offers a more psychological threat, as Mysterio uses the effects to play with Spidey's natural insecurities and self-doubt. So far, in most of the films, the antagonists have been science-based and mentors to Peter, so it would be good to have a break from that formula.
Definitely.
I think, yeah, two really good points.
And especially if Marvel wants to start tapping into the strange and the unusual. They'd
Yeah.
be happy that, maybe that's a really good way to go.
Yeah.
Sebastian Seb has written in about horror heroes. He says, it seems the comic space is dominated by traditional superhero, men and women in striking outfits saving the world while fighting various equally striking villains. While I love this current golden age for that type of hero, I feel not enough people talk about or are aware of those heroes who fit into the supernatural, horror, or fantasy genres. For instance, one of my absolute favourite heroes and films based on a comic are Del Toro's Hellboy adaptations. They had stunning worlds, flawed yet amazing characters, and a main hero with real wit and ruggedness. Why do you think these genre projects have slightly fallen away from the silver screen? Money.
Yeah, the Hellboy films were kind of cult hits without making a fortune. That's the reason we haven't seen a third movie yet, because the studio, the amount of money they cost. And it's just more of a chance for studios to take. They've got kind of a formula now, certainly Marvel does, and DC's working on their own one, of what works, kind of light, fluffy, fun blockbusters, and, you know, DC, the kind of darker ones, but still dealing with those mainstream heroes that everyone knows. And I think we've seen, you know, last week that it came out that it looks like Del Toro's left Justice League dark. Yeah. So that's not going to happen. Ron Perlman and Del Toro spent years trying to get Hellboy 3 off the ground. Can't get the funding for it. So I just think there's fear.
Yeah, but, you know, repetition can lead to fatigue, and that can kill your kind of money-making capacity. And Marvel, you know, signalled, you know, they've gone sci-fi, introduced sci-fi heroes, alien heroes. And with Strange, they're going to, you know, Feige said this at the Slate presentation. Yeah. He said, we want to tap into our supernatural characters.
Yeah.
So, you know, just as a lot hinged on Guardians doing well,
yeah,
a lot hinges on Strange doing well. And if he does well, you will see, you will get in some form, you will get Man-Thing, you will get, you probably get another Ghost Rider. They'll, you know, I'm sure Marvel will like a crack at it. And you might get those more horror heroes coming to the fore.
We love horror, so both Dad and I do, so we'd love to see that happen. Email from Tom Pritchard. Thinking about how The Punisher will tie into the second season of Daredevil, I doubt that will be solely dedicated to Frank Castle's origin story. Like the backstory of Matt and Kingpin in the first season, I imagine that Punisher will be an established vigilante force, and his journey to that point will be the focus of a series of flashbacks. That means there will be no unnecessary filler content, and Marvel will only have to deal with the important points of his past. Interesting idea, because I was saying the other day, I feel like it'll deal in present time with his what happens to Frank Castle, and I'd quite like to see what I predicted, because I'd like to see him and Matt Murdock maybe be friends and know each other, and that's how we find out about it. But as you said, so much of the show was done in flashback that maybe they'll do that same.
I was thinking about it because I liked Daredevil, and by the end of it, I can't imagine myself ever going back and rewatching any episodes. As much as I liked it, because it's almost like a big 13-hour episode. It's just one arc.
Yeah.
I think with season 2, I'd really like a one-off episode or a two-parter, like almost like little runs. Like the first series is just one big arc, pretty much. I'd love a couple of 2 episodes.
A couple of one-shots.
Yeah, that'd be really good. Isaac has written in, hey guys, after reading an article about how 1970s Hulk TV was the start of the comic book craze, do you think that doing a modern Hulk series to the same format as Daredevil and the rest of the Defenders on Netflix would be a success? Alternatively, do you think the Hulk is better as a second fiddle character like he is in the Avengers?
Well, yeah, the Incredible Hulk TV show is an absolute classic.
Yeah.
I'd be well behind seeing that that formula.
Yeah, Del Toro again. He was associated with
that was gonna happen,
several
years.
That was another thing that was going to happen that didn't happen. Like Del Toro, I think he's just this creative guy who wants to do all these things, and they don't pan out because of time and just money. But I can't imagine
bad luck to
I
any
can't imagine
project.
that character being done on the small screen now, just because of the amount of CGI involved.
Yeah, but it's not that expensive to do CGI now. Yeah. I don't know. I also agree. Like, having spoken to some of the people who make these movies, a lot of the creative guys making decisions feel like Hulk is someone that you just drop in and out of films to kind of steal the show or have a couple of big scenes.
Yeah.
You know, they gave it a couple of goes. It didn't quite
It's
work.
like the ultimate weapon now, though. Like, if you've seen him fight in, like, massive alien space worms, it's very hard to, like, strip him back to a guy on the run, because what is ever going to threaten him? Nothing.
No.
He's killed a massive space worm.
You and your massive space worm.
What do you think about massive space worms? You can let us know at any time. superhero@ign.com. So Comic-Con is nearly upon us, and Marvel aren't there, but DC is. They've got a panel on Saturday, and I imagine they're going to go big.
Massive.
Yeah, so we're going to go through 6 predictions. Some we might get right, some maybe a bit out there.
Yeah, don't give us grief if they don't come true. We're trying to have a bit of fun here. We could go safe and say Suicide Squad will be there, but they probably are. These are full-on predictions, hardcore predictions.
Yeah, so...
Sorry, it was very aggressive.
Yeah, it was, but I think you've preempted any criticism. Number 1, Chris Pine is there.
Why would he be there?
But he's not going to be Steve Trevor. He's going to be Hal Jordan. He's going to be announced as the new Green Lantern. But wait, that's not all of my prediction.
Yeah.
There's another part. He's not the only Green Lantern. We'll also get Jon Stewart.
Played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. I just made that up.
Imagine if
My
he was...
prediction.
But he's in a Marvel movie as well. He's going to... Imagine if he
Of
did
course,
that.
he's in Doctor Strange. Cut that. Cut that. Cut that, Rich.
Well, Tyrese Gibson's been rumoured.
Okay. Is that good?
I don't know. But anyway, that's incidental to the actual prediction.
Okay.
Number
Pine, Lantern.
And Jon Stewart.
Flash director announced.
Yes. Because we've got director for a lot of the movies.
Yep.
That's a big one that we don't.
Who's it going to be?
Steven Spielberg.
I am going Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright Flash movie? Yeah, make it happen. Make it so.
Number 3, The Batman, confirmed, directed by Ben Affleck. Now, everyone the other week was like surprised, like, they're doing another Batman movie. But
Yeah.
when they did the DC slate announcement, they did say at some point, undated, untitled, Man of Steel and Batman standalone movies.
Yep.
So it would be a thing, but I think they'll officially announce it. And Ben Affleck will give us a little tidbit about what he wants to do with the character.
I'd love to see him direct a Batman movie.
He'd make an amazing Batman
Yeah.
movie.
And could he also at the same time cast someone else as Batman? That's what he's going to announce as well.
Well,
I've gone rogue with these predictions. Sorry, Dan. You
Wait,
weren't
but-
expecting this.
It's okay, but I like it. It's good energy. But also, he said that he's at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Batman is a symbol. You could pass it on.
Yep.
Wow.
To John Hamm.
Okay.
The entire Justice League assembles on stage.
Definitely. I think
yeah.
that's how they end it. Like,
In costume? Probably not.
I think you start the panel, Batman v Superman. You don't have to give those people in that hall or watching at home anything more than that.
Yeah.
That's enough. And then at the end, bring them all out on stage, assemble, and that's the picture that will win Comic-Con.
And then we can do a side-by-side comparison of that with when they assembled the Avengers on
Yeah.
stage. We'll do it on the superhero show.
Who's better at assembling?
Who's better looking?
Or with like a school photo, get the
Who's
small
taller?
people down front.
Yep.
It'd be really awkward.
Who's taller?
That's a good feature. Next up is another big hero. We've got Cyborg is cast, and that's not coming out to 2019. We still don't have a Shazam, so I'm going to say they also cast Shazam, and he's one of the guys that comes out at the end for the big school picture.
That would be cool. That would get my dad excited.
I don't know who would play him.
He used to read Captain Marvel when he was a kid.
Nice.
It's his
Billy Batson.
favourite comic. Yeah, so we should get my dad on to talk about his Captain Marvel
I don't
memories.
know who they're going to cast. John Hamm.
That's a weird
John
one.
Hamm's playing all of them.
It's a weird one. The kid from Big,
Yeah,
all grown up. Swamp Thing announced.
yeah.
Why not?
Throw that in. Directed by Alan Moore.
Yep.
Written, directed by Alan Moore.
Yep.
No, I just think like Del Toro, this Justice League Dark's not happening. Everything is geared towards this. They might just go, why not? Let's take a punt. Let's do a weird one-off movie and see how it goes down. Swamp Thing, you heard it here first.
Yep. And non-DC, but we're really well, there were rumours this week that there might be a Hellboy 3 announced because of something that Ron Perlman tweeted. But I just checked. He kind of clarified on Twitter and said, that tweet about Hellboy 3 lurking was more aspirational than factual. Me continuing to dream as I will. Poor Ron, he seems like such a good bloke.
So Perlman's dreaming. Are you dreaming? What do you want to be at Comic-Con 2015? Let us know. superheroShow@ign.com.
And I'm going, so I'll be back here to tell you if it was there or not. if they came true, because I don't know how you'd find out otherwise.
Thanks, Chris.
Job done. Right, we have an email, another email with a question, and it's a great one. Do you want to hear it first?
Yeah, definitely.
From Roy Beckerman. Says, hi folks, how about doing an episode on superhero movie theme songs? Personal favourite, Danny Elfman's Spider-Man. Great question.
Great tune.
Let's pick our favourite superhero theme tunes.
Yeah, so first up, and I think a lot of people might like this one quite a bit, it is the original it's the early 90s X-Men cartoon, written by Ron Wasserman. And for me, this was my childhood, so let's hear a little bit.
What is it about that one that you like?
I think it's one, it's great, and it's also, we played a bit of it there with the actual opening intro, because the two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And it almost, I think it's a Pavlovian reaction. Like, I hear that and I just think superheroes. I think Marvel, and I go, I know I'm gonna have a good time. It's Saturday mornings. It's the day after school finishes, and
Yeah.
it's just all of that connected, and being like little and just loving that, being like 6, 7, 8, and like just having that reaction in me. And it's also a really good tune, but yeah, it takes me back to that time instantly.
I think intros and outros are playing a big part in our choices. So yeah, we're doing 3 each. My first one, I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm going to start singing it. Join in if you know it, Dan. Batman, the original TV show. I know I talk about it a lot on this on the superhero show, but I do love it. And in fact, all my choices are from my childhood. But this one, kind of like your X-Men one, it just makes me think of tea time, or it makes me think of summer holidays when it would play on the TV during the day. And it's such an iconic theme tune. As soon as everyone knows it, everyone sings it. There were good school ground versions of it. I remember Fat Man.
That's great parody.
Yeah.
As someone who grew up as an overweight child, I am quite acquainted with that variation of the theme tune.
Flat Man, or lots of them. But yeah, it is Batman. I don't think there's been a million great. There's been lots of great Batman theme tunes since, but this is the one that I think of when someone says Batman.
Nice, it's really good. So I'm going to go away from Tea Time Telly and go into the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the next one. So that's Thor Kills the Destroyer. Now, I've actually got a bit of a soft spot for Thor, but what I like about that is Patrick Doyle's score for Kenneth Branagh's movie. They've collaborated on lots of Shakespearean adaptation. And something about that music, because we say a lot of the Marvel themes are quite forgettable, and I don't think we've got any more in this list, actually. And I think there's been some good ones, but this really stands out because it's really stirring. It's used brilliantly in this scene when you think Thor has died and he accepts the inheritance. And there's a real pomp and circumstance to it. And I don't know, it has a gravitas about it that reminds me, because I did GCSE, I did A-level English literature, and I did it at university, so I had to watch all the Kenneth Branagh adaptations, and the music's kind of consistent with them, where it's really kind of magisterial, uses full orchestra, and it's almost like you wouldn't really associate it with a superhero movie.
No.
And it's when he like rightfully accepts his inheritance as the rightful chosen son of Odin. And it just really works, and I really like it. It makes my arms goosebump.
Good choice.
Yeah.
My next one, I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm just going to start doing the intro and see if Rich can seamlessly meld them. So it's going to go do 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 do. Flash Gordon, written by Brian May, if I'm correct in my thinking, because I interviewed him years ago and we did talk about Flash Gordon.
Oh, if I'm correct,
but was it him on his own? But was it him on his own, or was it with the rest of them? I think it was him on his own. And I should have done my research on this. I vaguely remember him saying that Dino De Laurentiis, who produced it, really didn't want them using that music in the movie. And what a mistake that would have been, because it goes hand in hand with Flash Gordon, which I've said before on this show, I think it's one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. It's the truest to kind of the comic book form, I think. The colours and the the brightness and the fun of it all. And it's Queen, man. It's just a great rock song. It's heroic.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to do another inspirational one. We've already had one Batman. Here's another Batman. So that's Molossus, which isn't the nicest or easiest title to say, which is a genus of bat, and it's Hans Zimmer's track. It's kind of the big hero theme from Batman Begins, and variations are used throughout the Nolan trilogy.
Yeah.
But this is the one I always go back to, and it's so good. It's that kind of enveloping percussion. It's the relentless drums. It's the strings, and every time I listen to it, I think it's the perfect sonic representation of Batman as a character, because it feels like everything's closing in around you. Like there's this oppressive city. But at the same time, the drums to me also signify him. It's just relentless. He's not going to stop. And throughout all that, this heroic strain occasionally escapes, where.
So it's a better representation than.
Both have depth. I'm not going to deny that.
And it kind of changed music in the movies, I think. It's been such an influence, Hans Zimmer's work in the Batman films, on not only movie scores, but trailer scores. You hardly hear a trailer that doesn't go for that now, of a big blockbuster. It's become such kind of a calling, like a, I don't know.
It's just a fixture now of what they do with
like
trailers.
A trademark kind of.
But he does. That's the backbone. That's Batman in the Nolan movies. But it does, because when I was going through those soundtracks this morning from them, because I was like, I almost went for the one they use at the end of The Dark Knight, which is a more melancholic variation of it when he escapes and becomes the villain that Gotham needs him to be, becomes the Dark Knight, and. It's something about it that it works really well for that character. It's just relentless because it never stops.
No.
It's a tune that has no natural endpoint. It's like the Halloween theme, which is in 5/4. It just keeps on going.
Yeah.
Batman will never end.
Like a Philip Glass piece kind of thing. But it builds and builds.
Like,
Yeah, I mean,
So good.
I would love to have gone for a Zimmer, but I didn't. I went for a Williams. John Williams. Crack it out, Rich. Okay, so that was John Williams' theme from the Superman the movie, which is the greatest. I think we can agree on the fact that it is the most memorable, iconic. It's weird that more superhero movies, I think, haven't tried to emulate the kind of grandiose nature of that theme tune. You know, it came out a year after Star Wars, and I just think of them side by side, those two incredible theme tunes that...
It's not easy to do a Williams.
You can't imagine the movie without it. I can't. It's hard to imagine Superman without it. Certainly, Bryan Singer couldn't, because he used it for his Superman movie. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's ever been bettered, and I'd love to hear a theme tune that comes close.
It just has that power. Just when you hear the trumpet and it builds, it's
magical.
Yeah, there's a lot of Williams music is. Like the Jurassic Park stuff, like Star Wars, you can't imagine that. You can't imagine Superman. And the Man of Steel, like Hans Zimmer got that gig. I actually don't mind the music, but could I hum it for you?
No.
I couldn't do that.
I actually really like his score for Man of Steel, but as you say, this is a theme tune, really, isn't it? It's not a score, it's just friggin'...
So hopeful.
Oh, I want to hear it again. Yeah, but I mean, the point is, I was only given 3 choices, you only let me pick 3.
That's the format.
I know, but I had a 4th that was really special to me. It's a really beautiful piece of music from a TV show. I'm never going to play it to the people, and it just makes me really sad. It makes me feel like I need to leave this superhero show and move on to another superhero show to find my calling. So, on that bombshell.
See you next week.
Good luck, Rich.
Just like, what? Put that in. Definitely put that in at the end as an Easter egg.